Exposed, the haunted secrets of the cursed 1967 Apollo mission's sinister alien bases discovered. Sarah's heart raced as she unlocked the door to their new home. This quaint suburban house sat silently, cloaked in a ghostly charm that whispered secrets from its weathered walls. She had hoped Oakwood would be a sanctuary after her husband vanished, but even the air felt thick with a lurking dread. The perky, white picket fences and manicured lawns were supposed to represent safety. Yet behind the facades, shadows fell deeper. "Mom, come outside!" Jake shouted, his voice echoing like a siren's call. Sarah hesitated, looking around the eerily still neighborhood, where every house seemed to be watching. With a sense of foreboding, she stepped out. Jake stood grinning in the backyard, holding a rusted metal disc covered in dirt. "What is it?" Sarah asked, dread curling in her stomach. "I think it's something cool," Jake said, excitement dancing in his eyes. He brushed off the dirt, revealing faded NASA insignia. Instantly, her mind raced. Had they unearthed something that should remain buried? "Can we keep it?" he asked, eyes sparkling. "Sure, honey," she muttered, but inside, a chill ran down her spine. She shook her head, dismissing her unease. This was just a typical suburban relic, nothing more. Days passed, and as Jake submerged himself into unpacking their lives, he discovered a tattered journal in the attic, its pages crumbling like dry leaves. He pored over it, unease rippling through the air like static electricity. Intrigued, Sarah skimmed the yellowed pages that hinted at eerie happenings from a seemingly forgotten Apollo mission. She scoffed, thinking it was just the wild imagination of a bored kid. But deep down, dread tangled with her curiosity. Then, a neighbor vanished right before dusk, their house left ominously still. Whispers filled the grocery store, cloaked conversations about keeping the secret. Sarah tried to pry details from the locals, only to have them shut her down, eyes glazed over, urgency painted on glances like an unspoken warning. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Fear now had a grip on Sarah's heart, twisting it with paranoia. Each night, she noticed her neighbors peering out of their windows, hollow gazes trailing her every move. There was an unsettling silence now pierced with whispers. Determined to unearth the truth, Sarah slipped away one night to the old library, hoping to decipher the mystery hidden in Oakwood. Inside, the air turned cold, thick with tension. She stumbled upon a room, its cool darkness pulling her closer like a siren. Had the Apollo mission uncovered something, unlocking a door to realms better left unexplored? The journal clutched like a lifeline. She dove deeper. As she read the final entries, a pounding dread seized her as the revelation dawned. This wasn't just about space, it was much more sinister. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into darkness. Panic clawed at her throat. Footsteps echoed like a drum in her ears. With this, the pages slipped from her grasp, scattering like leaves in the wind, revealing the name of the town's mayor. Heart racing, fear coursing through her veins, she teetered on the edge of discovery. What lay hidden beneath the mundane surface of Oakwood? And who among her neighbors, eyes hollow and anxious, was truly safe? The darkness was oppressive, wrapping around Sarah like a tight shroud. She pressed her back against the cold, damp wall, her breath shallow and quick. Her heart pounded like a hammer against metal, reverberating in the silence. The footsteps drew closer, heavy and deliberate. She closed her eyes, straining to listen, to decipher the rhythm, but they halted. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice trembling. No answer came, only the languid shift of a shadow just outside the door. Adrenaline surged as she gripped the edges of the journal tightly, ready to use it as a weapon if the need arose. The door quivered slightly as if pushed by an unseen force. She could feel her pulse racing in her throat, cold sweat trickling down her spine. A creaking sound filled the room as the door opened by itself, revealing a silhouette cloaked in shadows. For a moment it stood there, just beyond the door frame, as if weighing her presence. Sarah's breath hitching, she could feel the contours of fear tightening around her. Then the figure stepped forward, and the overhead light flickered, casting erratic bursts of illumination. It was a man tall, gaunt, with deep-set eyes that seemed to shimmer with an unsettling knowledge. Sarah stumbled back, grappling for something to shield herself with. "Don't be alarmed," he said, his voice dripping with a calmness that sent shivers along her skin. "I'm here to help, or to warn." His gaze bore into her, penetrating her veil of defenses. "Help?" she echoed, her voice barely a whisper. "Warn me about what?" "What you've discovered." He gestured vaguely as if the very air around them was burdened with the weight of secrets. "The journal. It's more dangerous than you can imagine. And you're not alone. Many have sought the truth, but the truth seeks vengeance." Panic momentarily clouded her judgment. "Where is my son?" she demanded, her voice rising with renewed strength. "If you've harmed him, I have not," he interjected swiftly, his expression shifting to something more serious. "But the others, they watch you, and they won't let the truth escape." "The others?" she pressed, a mixture of fear and anger radiating from her. "What others?" He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The ones who protect the secrets of Oakwood. They're all around you, neighbors, friends, even the mayor. The mission didn't just leave relics, it left a curse." Before she could ask for more, the library around her grew eerily silent. The air turned thick, and a low hum swallowed the space. Her body betrayed her as she felt the walls closing in, a sensation of being trapped alongside the heaviness of dread that weighed down her mind. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the front of the library. The sound was thunderous, as if something enormous had slammed into the heavy oak doors. Sarah could feel the quaking of the floor beneath her feet. "What was that?" she gasped, eyes darting back to the man. But he was gone, vanished like a wraith, leaving only echoes of his warning reverberating in the still air. Heart racing, she raced toward the noise, driven by fierce instinct. As she skidded to the entrance, the doors burst open, revealing a mass of figures cloaked in shadows. Empty eyes glinted dangerously in the dim light, intent on her. Terror surged through her. She felt her limbs grow heavy, a chilling realization grasping her soul. She needed to protect Jake. If they found him. "Run!" she shouted into the darkness behind her, willing herself to take one more breath, one more step forward. But as the figures advanced, she turned to flee, the echo of her fleeing heart reverberating in that haunted library. What did the neighbor know? What truths had been twisted so thoroughly by Oakwood's secrets? Her only thought was clear: she had to find Jake before they found him first. But the shadows were closing in. The whispers returned, swirling around her, promising that escape might not be possible anymore. What lay ahead? Could she unravel the curse before it consumed everything she loved? Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears as she sprinted away from the oppressive shadows that lunged for her like hungry beasts. The library's familiar layout morphed into a maze of terror as panic twisted her thoughts. Bookshelves loomed and leaned, their musty tomes watching her with unfathomable secrets. The air, thick with dust and dread, stung her lungs as she rounded a corner, her feet pounding on the wooden floor. The distant whispers grew louder now, mingling with the sound of her ragged breath. "It seeks vengeance," one voice hissed. "Find him," another urged. Was it Jake they wanted? Or her? Their echoing tones wrapped around her like tendrils of ice. Suddenly, a figure materialized before her, sharp, defined against the dim light spilling from a window. It was one of her neighbors, Mrs. Wellington. The elderly woman stood there, her eyes wide and unfocused. "Sarah!" she croaked, voice cracking like fragile glass. "Get back!" Sarah shouted, her own voice filled with the fear she couldn't control. She didn't know if Mrs. Wellington was a friend or foe. "You have to run! They're coming for me!" But the old woman didn't move. Instead, she pointed a shaking finger toward a door at the far end of the library. "You must go through there, quickly! They can't find you." Not when you. Her words were cut off suddenly as a shadow swept over her, consuming her in a blink, leaving nothing but a dark stain where she had stood. The scream clawed its way up Sarah's throat. She turned, scanning for another exit, her mind racing. A part of her screamed to flee the building completely, to abandon the cursed library, but Jake was still trapped in this nightmare. Heart pounding, she sped toward the doorway Mrs. Wellington had indicated. As she reached it, a flood of cold air rushed past her, like a whisper of something unseen urging her to enter. She hesitated, glancing back to where the shadows congregated, coalescing into a dark mass. They were coming for her. With a desperate push, she darted through the door, the ancient wood creaking ominously behind her. She found herself in a narrow, dimly lit corridor that felt like it was sucking her in, walls crooked and dripping with darkness. The flickering lights cast eerie shadows, and she felt a chilling realization seep into her bones. This was just another part of the library. Something far more sinister lay ahead. As she crept forward, she stumbled upon a strange marking on the wall, an insignia similar to the one she had seen in the journal. The symbol pulsed with an unnatural energy, sending waves of nausea crashing over her. She could hear the scrapes of shoes echoing behind her, the figures following close, relentless. There must be a way out, she whispered, panic squeezing around her chest. But every instinct told her they were closing in, the shadows moving with a purpose she could barely grasp. Then, from the depths of the corridor, a chilling laugh erupted, a sound so familiar, and yet otherworldly, sending shards of ice through her veins. It echoed, wrapping around her until it felt suffocating. Sarah, it called her name, sweet and deceptive. "You shouldn't have dug so deep." The voice sent her heart racing, the fear suffocating like a wet blanket. Was it a trick? Who was playing with her sanity now? She shook her head, trying to clear the fog swirling in her mind, moving deeper into the corridor, hoping for something, anything to save her. As she turned another corner, a door loomed ahead, ancient and foreboding. A rusty sign hung crookedly above it, barely legible. "The truth will set you free," but would it? Would uncovering the truth lead to salvation or doom? She reached for the doorknob, steeling herself. The whispers surged behind her, an angry chorus beckoning. She needed to know, needed to understand what the journal had revealed, and what price she would pay. For Jake. She twisted the knob, and the door creaked open, revealing a glow that cut through the darkness, an uncertain light that pulsed with energy. What horrors awaited her on the other side? Would she finally uncover the reality of Oakwood's dark history, or would it seal her fate forever? The door swung open reluctantly, revealing a room drenched in an ethereal glow. The sickly light pulsed rhythmically, casting jagged shadows that danced on the walls. Sarah stepped inside, her heart racing with a mix of dread and curiosity. What lay before her felt ancient, wrong, like a forbidden relic from another time. The air was heavier here, pressing down on her chest, tainted with the must of decay. Old photographs cluttered the walls. Family portraits frozen in time, their eyes seemed to follow her, betraying sorrow and secrets trapped within their frames. Among them, one image stood out, a girl with stark features and hauntingly familiar eyes. No. It couldn't be. Sarah's thoughts raced back to the journal, to the names scribbled in the margins, intertwined with her own. Was that her? Was it a descendant lost to the darkness that enveloped this town? The shadows behind her crawled closer, muttering in a frenzy, drowning her in their chilling chants. "You're here now, you're part of it," they seeped into her mind, tightening their hold. She forced herself to focus, wandering deeper into the space, where a pedestal held an open book, its pages tattered yet vibrant with symbols that twisted and squirmed under her gaze. Her eyes darted to the top, "The Sins of Oakwood." The words clawed her psyche with a need to understand. Then she saw it, a passage about a ritual gone wrong, an experiment that had awakened something beneath the earth, something that hungered for a return. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't simply a library, it was the heart of the darkness that gripped the town. The whispers crescendoed, hammering at her resolve. You must know the truth or join the lost. I need to find Jake, she gasped, pleading with the shadows as much as herself. There had to be an answer in this gloom, a way to save him, to save herself. Yet the words evaporated in the oppressive atmosphere. As she read deeper, a cold draft spiraled around her, wrapping tendrils of icy dread through her spine. The books around her began to vibrate, their pages fluttering as if alive, chanting the words she couldn't hear. It felt like the library itself was waking up, stirring with the tale of its own demise. Then a thought streaked through her mind with clarity: the truth will set you free. But what truth? The truth about the darkness that had ensnared this town for generations. A truth that could unleash even worse horrors? In that moment, the door slammed shut behind her with a deafening finality. The room fell silent, and the light flickered and dimmed. Panic surged anew as she turned to face the shadows looming at the edges of the room. No! This isn't how it ends. But there was no escape. The walls inched closer, closing in like an inevitable tomb. Whispers became howls, a cacophony of tortured souls crying out for release. As Sarah pressed against the pedestal, she felt the energy shift, and then, a figure began to emerge from the dark. A teenage boy with sunken eyes and a familiar face stepped forward, his mouth twisted in despair. Jake. Help me, Sarah, he rasped. You have to finish what we started. A surge of recognition hit her like a punch. This was the Jake she knew, but the entity pulling him into the shadows was not just a figment of her imagination. It was real, and it was ravenous. Frantic, she reached out, but the shadows tangled around him, drawing him into darkness. Wait! Don't go! Sarah, you must understand. The words cut off as he disappeared, swallowed by the void. In the echoing silence, she realized the whispers were no longer behind her. They were all around, waiting, longing for her next move. With desperation igniting her heartbeat, she turned to the book, its pages blank at her touch, but for long enough that she could sense the words swelling to life. She could feel the grim energy thrumming beneath, and she knew she needed to make a choice. What price was she willing to pay to bring him back, and could she bear the truth it demanded? As she grasped the book, the pulse in her veins matched the glow, and one thought consumed her: was she ready to accept the darkness within? The ground trembled beneath her feet, the room shaking as reality blurred, and the shadowy whispers shifted toward a jagged crescendo, swallowing all light. Time to choose, Sarah. What truth awaited her in that book? What fate had she set in motion, and would Jake be waiting for her on the other side? The book jolted in her hands, an electric pulse shooting through her wrists, making her skin tingle. Its pages ruptured open, bright symbols exploding off the paper like angry fireflies, bathing the dark room in an eerie glow. The whispers amplified into a wild frenzy, clawing at her sanity. Finish it! Release us! Her mind reeled. Could she truly do this? Did she even want to? The primal urge to save Jake fought against the cold fear creeping through her veins. She knew the townspeople had been right all along. Something unspeakable lurked beneath their feet, and she was drawn into its heart. Jake! She cried, her voice swallowed by the pulsating walls. I can't lose you! I'll do it! Just tell me how! She skimmed the pages, desperately hunting for answers. Lines twisted into shapes she couldn't comprehend, sentences tangled into knots that rattled her mind. And then, one word leapt out: sacrifice. Time slowed as she felt its weight. Her breath quickened. What was the cost? Jake's face floated in her mind, eyes searching, pleading. What if the truth she sought would trap her as well? Focus! The shadows hissed, swirling around her like a dark fog. The room felt alive, the walls pulsing with a heartbeat. A low growl echoed, reverberating through her bones, tightening her chest. Say it! The whispers coalesced into one voice, sharp and urgent. Say the words to join them. Speak the incantation hidden from the living. Of course, she thought, feeling the precipice of dread. It was never just about finding Jake. It was always about joining the wretched spirits that haunted this place. She clutched the book tighter and began to recite the words that emerged from some corner of her mind. With every syllable, shadows recoiled and lunged forward, enveloping her completely. Chilling fingers grazed her skin, and she felt her heartbeat amplify, resonating with the darkness. Then static filled the air. A crackle of energy surged, misfiring around her, and an agonizing scream of voices erupted, drowning her thoughts. The shadows pressed closer, and the room warped around her, solidifying the realization that she was losing her grip. "Jake! I'm here!" she screamed, tears stinging her eyes. "I want to abandon you." The words ignited a spark. A figure burst forth from the tumultuous crowd. It was Jake again, but distorted, as if pulled out by a relentless force. His mouth moved, but no sound came, just the echo of a long, desperate plea. He seemed just beyond reach, caught between two worlds. "Sarah?" The pause felt endless. "Don't trust it. You don't know what you're doing." A wave of despair swept over her, rooting her to the spot. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum, drowning her in urgency. The air was thick, alive with tension, as the cacophony of spirits rose to an unbearable pitch, and then it snapped. The shadows, hungry and relentless, lunged. Light flared around her, a blinding flash illuminating the room. Fragments of countless tormented souls were caught in between, reaching for her, grasping, begging for release. She felt a chasm open up inside her. The weight of the truth bore down on her soul. Synapses fired with primal instinct, propelling her to fight back. She wouldn't be the next sacrifice. Not now. In a moment of reckless defiance, she slammed her palm against the page, closing her eyes and channeling all her desperation, all her love for Jake into one desperate plea. "No! I choose life!" The ground shook violently, the shadows recoiling like they were burned. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then the howls returned, twisting into a voice of unfathomable rage. "You have sealed your fate, Sarah. The truth is never free." In a sudden eruption, the walls cracked, fissures splintering through the foundation, and darkness echoed a new decision. The price would be far steeper than she anticipated. Pledge your fate to the void or lose him forever. For all her bravery, Sarah's spirit quaked. Had she just made the fatal mistake? What had she unleashed? Questions swirled in her mind as a figure emerged from the darkness at the far end of the room. Smirking. Its eyes were devoid of life, just two voids of pure malice. "Welcome back, Sarah. The game has only just begun." The oppressive air thickened as she faced the chilling audience of shadows. Could she still save Jake? Or had she just damned them both? The oppressive weight of dread hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah felt her heart racing, a frantic wild animal clawing its way out of her chest. The smirking figure loomed closer, each step eliciting a ripple of atmospheric discomfort, like electricity before a storm. Shadows encircled her like wolves, ominous and hungry. Who are you?" she stammered. Her voice felt small against the howling winds of the darkness, barely piercing the storm of whispers echoing around her. "I am the Keeper," it hissed, a twisted grin spreading across its face. "And you have awakened what should remain sleeping." The spirits never wanted to be freed. They wanted company, a new vessel. "No!" She staggered back, her palm still burning from where she pressed it to the book. "I wouldn't let you take me." "Not now!" The Keeper laughed, a sound like shards of glass scraping together, filled with malice and contempt. "You think you have a choice? The moment you uttered those words, you committed to this fate. The price of salvation is steep, and you've only begun to comprehend its weight. Your precious Jake could still be saved, but at what cost?" Sarah's resolve wavered. They needed a plan, but chaos and panic took hold of her mind as the shadows writhed, grasping, whispering her name with eerie intimacy. She felt their desperation, their yearning for a living host. The clawing anxiety intensified. She needed Jake. His face, distorted and pleading, haunted her every thought. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, her voice a mix of fury and terror, forcing strength into her words. "Just let him go. He doesn't belong to you." "A sacrifice must be made," the Keeper replied serenely. "Either you give yourself, or you let him join us here, forever ensnared in this wretched limbo." "No!" Sarah screamed, shaking her head. I can't allow that. The room shimmered for a moment, alive with unseen energy. A sharp chill seized her skin. She turned her gaze back to Jake, who was fighting against the invisible bonds that tied him to the swirling darkness. His eyes were filled with anguish. 1,000 unsaid words hung in the air. Sarah! He shouted. You can't trust them. Don't listen to it. The keeper laughed again. You believe you can stop this? You'll learn that trust is a luxury you cannot afford here. With a flick of its wrist, the shadows coiled tighter, almost as if they were tugging at her very essence. Pain shot through her as clutches of darkness lashed at her limbs. Jake, please! Sarah pleaded, tears streaming down her face. The weight of responsibility crashed upon her, and dread bloomed within. The whisper suddenly turned into an agonized roar, filling her ears to bursting. In that moment, a wild thought struck her. She had the book. Maybe it held the key to her escape. With trembling hands, she pulled the tome closer, frantically searching for a way out, a way to undo whatever she had unleashed. Don't! The keeper howled, its voice rising in pitch, screeching like nails on a chalkboard. You will doom yourself. No one escapes me. But Sarah pushed back against the shadows, feeling the energy surging from the words swirling around her. I will not be your pawn, she shouted defiantly. Then, amidst the fear and chaos, she caught sight of a passage, a symbol glowing beneath her fingertips. It shimmered with an otherworldly light. A way to sever the bond, to reclaim control. Adrenaline shot through her veins. Jake! Hold on! She called, feeling the heartbeat of the room synchronize with her own. Do it! He urged, his voice breaking through the static. With a deep breath, she recited the words, power thrumming through her as the shadows writhed in outrage. An intense blinding light burst forth, illuminating the darkness with a shriek of agony. Before she knew it, a barrier formed between her and the keeper, a shimmering wall of light. But instead of relief, the keeper's laughter rang out once more, slicing through her victorious moment. Foolish girl! You think you can escape me? You've only just begun to see the truth. The shadows will seek what they desire. Heart racing. Sarah caught Jake's eye, desperation intertwining their fates. Could she really free them both? An explosion of energy erupted, shaking the very fabric of their reality. Come back, Sarah! Jake cried as the shadows reached for him, their grip tightening. Could she find a way to save him before the darkness devoured them both? As reality began to unravel around them, Sarah realized with chilling clarity the keeper was only the beginning. What other horrors awaited her in the depths of darkness? What price would she ultimately pay for salvation? The light from the barrier wrapped around Sarah like a protective cocoon, but its brightness was quickly overshadowed by the keeper's dark promise. You think this shield will save you? You are merely delaying the inevitable. Sarah's breath came in quick gasps, heart hammering. The pulsating light illuminated everything, revealing monstrous faces lurking within the shadows, each contorted with agony and longing. She shuddered, catching a glimpse of what they were, the lost souls of those who had come before her, trapped by the keeper's malice. No, no, she whispered, shaking her head slowly. I want to be like them. Jake remained caught between two worlds, desperately pulling against the unseen bonds that held him. Sarah! You need to find a way. We can't let this thing win. Panic quaked in his voice, a sound that pierced through the suffocating dread. Right. She shouted, determination igniting within her. She had to focus. What else is in the book? There has to be something. The whispers around her swelled in volume, a cacophony of voices urging her to give in. They played on her fears, memories of the past clawing at her mind. Let them go! One voice screamed, filled with agony. Join us! Another hissed seductively. Sarah pressed her hands over her ears, her head spinning with the chaos swirling around her. The keeper reached out, fingers like charcoal tendrils stretching toward her barrier. The more you resist, the more they will suffer. This fight is futile, girl. It grinned, showing teeth too sharp, dripping with what she imagined could only be darkness. I have to believe. she shouted, defiance lending her strength. Glaring at the keeper, she turned her focus back to the book, desperately flipping through the pages that fluttered like the wings of trapped moths. There must be another way. Then she found it, a passage hidden among the illustrations, ancient symbols stacked one atop another like a dark tower. They pulsed, beckoning to her. She could feel their energy mingling with the light surrounding her. Yes, this could work, she murmured, her fingers dancing over the words. Stop! Roared the keeper, its voice tearing through her resolve. You'll destroy us all. Do you want to be responsible for that kind of chaos? A fragment of doubt crept into her mind, but she brushed it off. The keeper only sought to twist her choices. It thrived on despair. The stakes were too high to waver now, not with Jake in peril. Sarah! Jake's voice broke through the noise, raw and pleading. Trust yourself. Trust us. His words broke the spell, her heart swelling with love and determination. She began to chant the incantation written in the tome, the words slipping from her lips like a lifeline. The symbols on the page glowed in response to her voice, a brilliant force pushing against the dark tendrils reaching toward her. The shadows hesitated, as if momentarily shaken. Then, they lunged forward again with a fury that sent crashing waves of despair through her. Feel it. Feel them. The keeper howled. Their pain will consume you. You can't hold on. But Sarah pressed on, her voice breaking the atmosphere like glass. The ground beneath her trembled, shaking off the grip of shadows as the barrier pulsed with raw intensity. Suddenly, a flash of blinding light erupted, filling every inch of the space, washing over everything in its path. Jake! She screamed, the world spinning. When the light receded, Sarah found herself standing alone. The chamber had vanished, replaced by a bewildering mist that clawed at her, chilling her skin. She spun around, searching for Jake, but he was nowhere to be seen. Jake! She called out, panic rising in her throat. Jake! The mist thickened, swirling menacingly, and from within it, figures materialized, their faces twisted in agony. The spirits were close, closing in around her, whispering her name. Bring him back! She shouted, fighting to maintain her grip on the reality around her. Please let him go! But their whispers grew louder, drowning her out. Before she could react, the world shifted again. In the sudden silence, a voice broke through the haze, cold and clear. You thought you could escape, but you've only opened the door to more darkness. An icy shiver ran down her spine. The keeper's laughter echoed in the distance, promising torment just beyond sight. What other horrors lay in wait, lurking on the other side of the mist? And how deep would Sarah have to go to retrieve Jake before it was too late? The mist swallowed everything, thick and suffocating. Shadows shimmied in and out, a disorienting dance flickering just beyond Sarah's vision. She pressed her back against something solid, her breath quickening as panic constricted her chest. Jake! She yelled, her voice trembling. The figures in the mist drifted closer, their eyes hollow, mouths moving in a silent scream. She could feel their despair wash over her like a cold wave, pulling at her resolve. With every whisper that curled around her ears, a memory resurfaced, fading laughter, warm hugs, a joy that had once been so tangible. But now, it felt like sand slipping through her fingers. These are the lost, a voice hissed, smooth but laced with venom. The keeper collects them. Ever waiting, ever hungry. The shapes coalesced, their wailing crescendo mixing with the voice, an unholy counsel intent on breaking her spirit. I want to let you take me! She roared, her fists clenched in defiance. But uncertainty gnawed at her. Doubt crept in like the mist itself, and she stumbled back, grabbing a handful of icy air. Help us, they whispered, voices overlapping, drowning her in sorrow. Join the keeper. It's the only way out. No! She cried, shaking her head, wishing to drown their voices out. But the sound swirled and spiraled, wrapping around her tightly, squeezing her hope. She could feel the keeper's presence looming. It relished in her uncertainty, every flicker of doubt a feast for its dark appetite. Do you see? A shadow darted before her, its features indistinct, just a swirl of darkness. You think the light can shield you? You're alone now. Your beloved suffering because you choose defiance. With those words, something inside her cracked. The mist thickened, draping over her like a death shroud, clinging to her skin. Memories of Jake flooded her mind, his laughter, the way his eyes sparkled like stars when he was happy. Each one felt like a knife twisted deeper into her heart. She couldn't let him suffer. But what choice did she have? Just as despair threatened to steal her breath, a faint glow flickered through the gloom, echoing the light of the tome. It pulsed gently, calling to her. Remember, it seemed to whisper. Strength lies in numbers. You are not alone. Taking a ragged breath, she reached for the warm light. Jake! She shouted again, grounding herself in the desperation to find him. Don't leave me! I'm coming! The spirit shrieked, voices mingling in outrage and pain. The mist writhed around her, like a beast prepared to swallow her whole. Foolish girl! The keeper's voice boomed from somewhere within the darkness. You can't save him if you can't even save yourself! But Sarah could feel the flicker of hope blazing within her as she focused on the warmth of the light. She turned it inward, drawing strength from it. With her heart racing, she began to chant the incantation again. Each word felt like fire igniting the air around her. The ground shook, and the mist wavered as if in response to her determination. The spectral faces hesitated, still laced with sorrow, but now filled with something else, curiosity. Join us! They urged, each plea sharper than the last. Why suffer? This is your fate. Gritting her teeth, she pressed on, her voice slicing through the air with renewed intensity. As the words flowed from her, the flickering light intensified, pushing back against the onslaught of shadows. The keeper's laughter turned to howls of rage that echoed through the suffocating mist. No! You will not defy me! It shrieked, but Sarah could feel the darkness recede. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, revealing a figure within the mist. Jake. His eyes were wild, confusion etched across his face, an expression that twisted her heart. Sarah, Jake! She screamed, reaching out, but between them an unseen barrier pulsed with energy, holding him at bay. Don't give up! Come for me! He shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. The keeper howled in fury, its form shifting and twisting, as if the darkness trembled in the face of her defiance. Sarah! The spirits chorused their wails, echoing like a siren's song. Join us! The pressure racked her body, threatening to crack her resolve. Her heart raced. Time was slipping through her fingers. Would she lose everything? The world around her twisted violently as she fought to hold on to hope. Would she have to confront the keeper head-on, even if it meant facing her deepest fears? Find the light. Her heart whispered, but the shadows weren't done yet. They lunged at her, swallowing the glow she clung to. As everything spiraled out of control, would Sarah discover how far she was willing to go to rescue Jake, or would the keeper's darkness finally claim what it desired? The luminous glow flickered, barely breaking through the suffocating mist as the keeper's howl resonated ominously around her. Sarah felt the shadows writhe like snakes, angered by her defiance, their whispers drowning the pulsing light that nourished her hope. She gasped, struggling to keep her footing as the ground trembled beneath her, protesting against the battle of light and dark. Join us, Sarah! They cried, their voices climbing to a haunting crescendo that made her blood run cold. Embrace what you are destined to be. She blinked away the tears that threatened to spill, shivering against the ethereal touch of desolation. Never! She shouted, determination propelling her forward. With each word of the incantation, her heart thrummed louder in her chest, a war drum against the encroaching despair. Do you really believe any of this will save him? A shadow taunted, its voice low and seductive, laced with twisted familiarity. You'll never be enough. No! She screamed, her eyes wild with resolve. The light surged, and for a moment, it illuminated the mist, revealing faces of the lost that twisted in agony. Each one a testament to the keeper's insatiable hunger, every whisper a reminder of what she stood to lose. The barrier pulsed harder, straining against the connection she sought with Jake. Just reach out, he urged, his voice trembling with a mixture of raw yearning and terror. Trust the light. Energized by his words, she pressed her palms together and threw her arms wide, feeling the familiar warmth seep through her fingers like sunlight spilling over the horizon. I will fight for you, Jake. I won't let them take you. The keeper's laughter echoed, chilling her bones. You think you can defy fate? It scoffed. The shadows convulsed, a dark wave surging forward. Sarah! Jake shouted again, the frantic plea sending an electric shock through her spine. Please! I need you to trust. But the darkness closed in, an oppressive weight determined to smother her resolve. She stumbled, falling to her knees, the mist curling around her like icy tendrils. No, not like this, she whispered, despair creeping up her throat. Suddenly, an image flickered in her mind, a memory, vivid and strong. It washed over her like a bomb. The day Jake had taken her hand in his, the warmth of his grip, a promise of never letting go. Stay with me, she had said then, and he had smiled, ever so softly. I will find you, she chanted now, desperation fueling her words. Each syllable ignited the air, inflating her courage like a tide pushing against the shore. The keeper loomed, shadowy fingers stretching toward her, but she rose, fire sparking inside her, as she embraced the memory. I will bring him back. With fierce conviction, she thrust her hands through the barrier, a bolt of bright energy focused on Jake. The pulse of the light surged between them, the haze of despair pulsing with nervous energy. The dark figure screeched, recoiling as if scalded by her relentless spirit. Do not abandon him. The spirits wailed, their haunting voices a mixture of pleading and fury, yet she felt their energy mixing with hers, resonating with the determination that wrapped around her like an iron chain. Jake! She bellowed, her voice ricocheting within the darkness. The shadows faltered, pulling back as the light enveloped her, a protective cocoon shielding her from their grasp. She turned back to the glowing form that was Jake, every nerve alive with purpose. But the keeper wasn't finished. It surged forward one last time, darkness coiling into a vicious wave intent on consuming them both. You will regret this defiance. It threatened. As the onslaught approached, Sarah's breath quickened, the air thick with tension. Was this the moment she would finally reclaim him, or would the keeper unleash its wrath, snatching him back into the abyss? The battle raged inside her, merging hope and fear. She had to find a way for Jake, for herself, and then, a chilling whisper danced through the air as shadows began to twist anew. What if we could bargain with the keeper? It asked. The suggestion hung in the thick mist, eerie and alluring. Could a deal with darkness be the only way to save him? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the crossroads of light and darkness. The keeper loomed before her, its shadowy form a twisted grin of malevolence. Join me, and I can give you what you desire. Jake will be free. You'll have the power to leave this cursed place. Free? You think I distrust you? She shot back, rage boiling inside her. With every ounce of love and determination, she cried, I'd rather face oblivion than bend to your will. Blinded by love, are you? The keeper laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Love will be your undoing. But Sarah wasn't done. She channeled every memory of Jake, his laughter, his hugs, the days spent together where the world felt whole. You think despair will claim me? No! You'll never take my son! And with that fire ignited within her, Sarah thrust her hands forward, calling on the light from the tome, feeling each word strengthen her resolve. The air around her shimmered, the figure of Jake flickered within the veil of shadows, desperate and pleading. Sarah, please! I know you can do this. You have to trust me! She shouted, battling through the despair suffocating her. With each incantation, she felt lighter, free from the chains the keeper tried to wrap around her spirit. She could sense the whispers coalescing around them, forming a chorus of lost souls tugging at strings of vulnerability, but also illuminating the path ahead. Remember, Sarah, Jake's voice cut through the chaos, firm and unwavering. We belong together. I'll find a way, she declared, her gaze steady upon the keeper. Your darkness cannot hold us. The energy surged, an electric pulse that lit up the room. Shadows retreated, recoiling from the radiant brightness that enveloped them. She could feel the barrier weakening, and the keeper's features twisted in fury. "You'll pay the price for this insolence." "I'd pay any price to save my son," she shot back. "But I will not pay it to you." In a final surge of desperation, Sarah pushed through the darkness. "I choose love over fear." The words resonated deeply, lighting a firestorm of energy that exploded outward. With a flash that blinded the keeper, it shrieked, "No!" All at once, the shadows lunged, and Jake reached out, their fingers almost touching. "Mom!" he cried, stretching his hand through the barrier. "Please!" The torrent of light surged around them, scattering the darkness like smoke in the wind. Sarah's heart raced as she felt the warmth of his presence, the familiar connection they had built over the years flooding back into her veins. "Hold on, Jake!" As they grasped hands, an electric shock resonated between them, igniting her spirit with a vigor she hadn't known existed. They pulled each other close, and in that moment the whole world seemed to fold, the barrier dissolving into shimmering dust. "We can do this together!" they exclaimed in unison, feeling the urge to break free. The keeper let out one last haunting wail, its shape fracturing into shards of darkness as they both stepped into the light fully, engulfing them like a warm embrace. A sweet, serene silence filled the air, followed by the gentle lilt of rustling leaves and the warm scent of earth. They found themselves standing outside, no longer encased in the dread of Oakwood. The suburban houses stood quiet, their sinister secrets pushed back into silence. "Mom, we did it!" Jake gasped, eyes wide with wonder. "We broke free!" His laughter rang like music in the air, slicing away the lingering fear. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she knelt slightly to take her son's face in her hands. "I thought I lost you." "You were gone, Jake. I'm here, Mom." "I'll always be here," he reassured her, radiating warmth and love. She embraced him tight, a lifetime of absence melting beneath their joy. "Let us get out of here," she said, pulling back and smiling through her tears. They took one step forward, hearts aligned, intertwined against whatever nightmare tried to tether them again. The sun dipped below the horizon, bathing Oakwood in golden light, the dark history of its secrets, finally dimmed. Sarah felt lighter in spirit but heavier with knowing. They had escaped the clutches of the keeper, but Oakwood would always remain a part of them, a scar healed but never forgotten. "Together, always," she whispered, Jake nodding, and together they walked away from the past, a bright future waiting ahead. Let the shadows fade, their story would carry on, empowered by love, a force greater than any darkness they defaced. Now, it's your turn to be part of our journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that bring you breathless excitement. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and spread the word. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Join the conversation. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to dive into this wild ride. Your support means the world.